Hello, Kayla. Me and Pikachu here. We're here to read another chapter of the Christmasaurus. It's been really good so far. We're almost halfway through. Almost. We're doing really well. I hope you've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying reading it. It's a good book. So this time, we're on chapter 14. A secret passenger. That sounds fun. Now, if you remember, the last chapter was the night before Christmas, where all the elves had to get the sleigh ready to take off on Christmas Eve. Now, as I said, the night before Christmas is one of Dad's favourite days of Christmas. It's really good, it's really exciting. I get really excited for it. And it's nice just to see everyone wandering around whilst you've got everything sorted. And Santa, of course. So, chapter 14. Are you comfy? You are? Okay, good. Cuddle in if you're not cuddled in already. You have? Okay. A secret passenger. It was still the night before Christmas, and all through the North Pole not a creature was stirring, except a dinosaur. The Christmasaurus woke up suddenly next to the fire, which had now died down to its last glowing embers. Feeling cold and lonely, he looked around the room and could just make out the enormous belly of Santa as he lay asleep on a super duper double thigh king size bed. Sounds amazing. Oh, how he wished that his stuffed dinosaur friend was still with him. He knew that out there somewhere was someone who needed it more than he did, but that didn't make saying goodbye any easier. Suddenly, an idea popped into the Christmasaurus's brain. It was a cheeky, naughty little idea, but one of those ideas pops into your head, it's almost impossible to pop it out again. What if, he thought to himself, what if he were to just take one last peep at Stuffy, just to say one last little goodbye? He knew that the toy was in the back of the sleigh somewhere. Surely it couldn't be that hard to find. And if he didn't do it now, then he'd never get to see it again. The Christmasaurus couldn't bear the thought of not having one last look. Quickly and quietly, he hopped up onto his feet and crept out of Santa's room. He didn't stop creeping until he was standing in the enormous barn they called the sleigh room, at the foot of the enormous sleigh, surrounded by dozens and piles of exhausted sleeping elves who were snoring in harmony. Before he could think twice, he barely even thought once. He was climbing up the side of Santa's mighty sleigh. He'd never touched the sleigh before. It was so preciously shiny and special that to look at it was satisfying enough. But now he only had one thing on his mind: finding Stuffy. He dived nose first into the sea of snacks that filled the back of the sleigh. Sacks, even. He swam deeper into the pricky fabric. He sniffed around, through sacks of soldiers, cars, trucks, dollies and ponies. But the stuffed dinosaur was packed deep. So deeper the Christmasaurus went until suddenly his little dinosaur claws felt something. Yes, that was it. He recognised the cuddly squishiness of his stuffed friend. The Christmasaurus clawed his way inside the sack and poked his nose through a tiny gap in the wrapping paper until his wonderful icy eyes were staring into the golden buttons of Stuffy. The Christmasaurus gave Stuffy one last hug goodbye. It was a long hug. A very long hug. So long, in fact, that before the Christmasaurus knew it, what was happening, he was drifting happily off back to sleep. Oh, but look how happy he is. Oh, Christmasaurus and Stuffy. Quang! The Christmasaurus woke with a start. The room outside the sleigh no longer sounded snoozy and quiet. It was now full of the busy sounds of elves' feet scuttering in every direction, polishing the brass skis on the sleigh, jangling every sleigh bell on the reindeer's reins, and replacing any that had lost their jingle. The The Christmasaurus had slept in the back of the sleigh all night. It was now Christmas Eve. "Good morning, my teensy busy little elves," boomed Santa's voice. At the sound of his heavy bootsteps, the Christmasaurus knew that Santa was already dressed in his Christmas Eve suit. A gloriously long, quilted red flying jacket with extra pockets for cookies and fudge brownies. His black, fireproof boots and a red hat with a fluffy white bauble. The Christmasaurus peered through a gap in the sacks of presents. Santa looked outstandingly large and jolly. "Good morning, Santa. The sleigh is set. You're ready to fly, but don't forget that under your seat is a spare red hat, and if you feel tired, then take a nap." The elves sang in unison as Santa climbed up into the front of the sleigh. The Christmasaurus was trapped. If he climbed out now, then he would surely be seen, and Santa would know that he'd snuck a sneaky peek in the sleigh and crumpled a perfectly elf-wrapped present. That was extremely naughty indeed. But if he stayed where he was, then he'd be stuck flying around the world with reindeers in Santa's sleigh. Flying around the world with the reindeer in Santa's sleigh. Flying, reindeer, sleigh. That had been the Christmasaurus's dream since the day he'd laid eyes upon those flying reindeer. Was this his chance to experience what flying like a reindeer was like? Or should he climb out the sleigh and come clean? What do you think he should do? Do you think he should stay where he is and feel what it's like to fly like a reindeer? Or do you think he should get out and be on the naughty list? Okay. Well, what do you think he's going to do? Let's see. Before he could decide what to do, there was a sudden jolt that rattled the sleigh. The great barn doors had just been opened, and the magnificently magical flying reindeer were tugging at the reins, ready to rocket into the sky. "My elf," Santa called from the front seat of his sleigh. "My tiny elves, my little friends, your work is almost done. Now I must do my duty to deliver every one of all those gifts and goodies to every girl and boy, fill each and every stocking with each and every toy. So I'll fly into the sky behind this herd of magic deer, to house and home and rooftop, just as I do each year. And when all the sacks are empty, no one left to deliver, we'll head back through the sky, for we'll have no more need to shiver. We'll celebrate tomorrow with mince pies and candy canes, and start dreaming about next year when it's Christmas time again." Santa lifted his arm into the air, and there was a sudden hush. An intensely magical silence flooded the great barn. The cold, crisp air that was blowing through the open barn door suddenly stopped too, and the snowflakes that had found their way inside hung suspended in the air as if time itself had slowed down. Santa was smiling to himself, and somewhere in the pile of toys behind him, the Christmasaurus was secretly wagging his tail. Was he actually about to experience flying? Each of the reindeer that was strapped up to the sleigh now had his eyes fixed on Santa, waiting for him to give the sign. Then, just before time seemed to stop completely, Santa reached inside his enormous coat and pulled something quite bizarre out of the inside pocket. It was a full-sized, old-fashioned gramophone, which is a record player with an enormously curly brass horn. There's a gramophone there. It's cool, isn't it? Quite how it fitted inside his coat pocket, I'll never know. Santa placed it softly on the next seat to him in the sleigh. Then he took off his red hat, reached inside it, and pulled out a vinyl record. He carefully placed it onto the turntable, lowered the needle into the first fine groove, and flicked a little brass switch on the inside. Music exploded out of the enormously brassy horn and filled the room with song. Music is a magic like no other, which can do incredible, unexplainable things. Suddenly, the heavy skis of Santa's sleigh lifted up a centimetre or two off the barn floor, and as though they were floating on the music itself. That's fancy. Then Santa gave the sign, and he started singing. I heard a noise on the rooftop, it made my heart go jump. The stomp of boots and the clop of hooves went clippity, clippity, clomp. Oh, I heard a noise on the rooftop, I wonder what it was. I really hope it's Santa Claus. The reindeer launched into a gallop and whooshed through the giant barn doors. I heard a noise on the rooftop, it sounded like a sleigh. Santa continued singing his favourite Christmas song, accompanied by the magical orchestra blasting from the gramophone. I went to bed on Christmas Eve and soon it's Christmas Day. The Christmasaurus rattled and bounced and rolled around in the back of the sleigh with the biggest grin on his scaly face, still clinging on to the arms of William's stuffed dinosaur. Oh, I heard a noise on the rooftop and now I can't sleep because... Then the thud of glowing, golden galloping deer hooves on the snow stopped. They weren't thudding on the snow anymore. They were galloping on the air itself. They were flying. The sleigh was flying. Santa was flying. The Christmasaurus was flying. I really hope it's Santa Claus, warbled Santa with a jolly smile as the sleigh and its secret passenger disappeared into the northern lights towards the waiting world. And there's a really good picture here I'm going to show you. If you look, there's Santa driving the sleigh. If you look at the back, there's the Christmasaurus poking his wee head out. That's a good picture. And I can just imagine Santa still singing. I heard a noise on the rooftop, I made my heart go jump. The stomp of boots and the clop of hooves went clippity, cloppity, clump. Oh, I heard a noise on the rooftop, I wonder what it was. I really hope it's Santa Claus. The end. That was a really good chapter. That's us down. We're on chapter 415 next, and that's us almost halfway. So I hope you enjoyed it. Pikachu was here and he enjoyed it as well.